Welcome to Nuhaus Knows, where homeowners go when they need to know. I'm Zach with the flashy lights, and with me today is
your host, Rob Platt, Professor Nuhaus, with my faithful sidekick,
Aaron Michelle, a.k.a. Ralph.
And
John the Builder.
Yeah.
I love John the Builder. It never gets old.
It will no.
I'm sorry, no matter how many of these shows we
John
do.
the
I'm
Builder.
John the Builder. It's,
So-
Ed McMahon has nothing on you.
That's right.
So we talked about last episode, the new direction and all the bright, sunny side up things that go with it.
Yeah, the practical reality. of
But
where
I
we
mean,
are.
it's just where we are right now. I'm doing very well personally because I actually have a lot of very vocal, loud opinions, but I can hold them to myself in a non-loud format because I'd blow up my mics. But today we're going to talk about something that I actually am also just as passionate about. And it's mainly talking about fighting for your rights and knowing your rights and knowing what you can and can't do. But what's how are we tackling that?
Well, I guess it comes down to you can be passive and things happen to you. And how do you respond? Or you can take some responsibility in your future because you are an American and you can do things. You can make decisions. You have actions you can take. You have decisions you can make. There's a lot of things you can do. Are they pleasant and fun? Not necessarily. Are they beneficial? Absolutely. Always. And we want to press the fact that it's cumulative. We're hopefully talking to a lot of you. Last week, we were confident we were talking to 4. I think we might be up to 6.
I think
but we need to.
Yeah.
You think we're at 6?
I think we're at 6.
We need to start building the numbers because the more of you that are taking action and doing something about the situation we are in collectively, the sooner it's going to change. We have the right. And what Zach's talking about is, first, know what you don't know. Once you know what you don't know, see what you can do to find out some of the things you need to know and start making informed decisions. Don't let things happen around you. If you do, then you're a victim, and victims are victims.
Well, that brings me to, I mean, everyone has an opinion. Everyone likes to share an opinion. That's the one thing you will always be able to find is an opinion.
Yeah.
But how you say make informed decisions? How can someone make an informed decision on something like knowing the price that they can pay for something, or knowing when they're being taken advantage of in these situations where it's like, okay, I gotta go pay $900 for this one problem, but really the problem is actually solved with $350.
Well, the first thing is, and I think this is a biggie. There's a question. It's one of our personal favorites, Aaron and I. Why? Ask why. Ask questions. When something pops up, just don't take it for face value. Don't say, oh, I've got to pay this thing or whatever. Look at them and say, that seems high. Can you explain why? What you're going to find out, why causes some people's heads to explode because they don't know why, or they're just giving you a chance. Here's a prime example. The great question that you asked. We do have a Jeep. We have a nice Jeep that we had on lease. We have a very short commute to work, and lease was a good idea. Mm-hmm. So we got this Jeep, and we got it on lease, and we've driven it for 3 years, and it's been fabulous. It's been great. Well, the lease is up in 60 days. Mm-hmm. So Jeep sent us a thing and said, you need to convert it, buy it, get rid of it. You got to do something. But in 60 days, you need to make a decision. Well, suddenly we were in a position of question 1, what can we do? So we had to become informed consumers. We had to dig in a little bit and discover what are our options. Those answers didn't come real easy because there are people that wanted to give us answers that were more beneficial to them than they were to us. This isn't exactly what you call an altruistic society. So, we find out, well, we can trade up. Well, that wasn't that great a deal. It really wasn't. We can continue the lease, which is what we actually considered. Or we could buy it. It turned out that buying the vehicle, after researching a little bit, and this didn't take a long time. We actually did it sitting there with the professionals and asked why. This guy's head, why, practically smacked him with a fish. I mean, it was like, oh, please don't ask me that question. I'm going to have to tell you the truth. I would love you to trade up, but it actually sucks. But all I had to do was ask why. And when he gave me an answer that was horseshit, I'm sorry, it was sideways, I said, I still don't get it. Why? And he finally said, well, really your best option is to buy the vehicle outright. Trading up is not going to be your best deal. You're way under the mileage. You've got good equity in the vehicle, and you can buy it and no money down. Oh, well, that's enlightening. And so we did just that. We bought the Jeep. It took an hour and a half of haggling with this twit. And it wasn't haggling. It just kept asking him why. And I kept asking why until he distilled it down to, you really need to just buy it. That's the best deal. And then when they found out they weren't making as much money, they were not as enthused about the paperwork. It suddenly went into slow mode. We were okay with that because we saved a ton of money. We got the vehicle we wanted and we were good. That can be done with virtually anything. Stop. Don't take answers on face value. Ask questions. Why?
Well, and asking why is hard. Because, that's one of the things I can say. I'm the baby in the room. It's one of those, like, growing up, one of those things of you're told something.
Because I said so.
Yeah, because I said, exactly.
I heard that a lot.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. But it's also one of those, like, you told something and it's like, oh, just you trust the experts. Trust them. They know what they're talking about. And so being told, we're not taught to ask why. It's one of those things. Now, granted, I will tell you, the generations younger than me, they're fine. They will ask why. No problems. But it's one of those, like, for John, if as a consumer, if I were to go to you and you were going to say, well, I have to, this job is going to cost more on the high end that I bid you. Because we've talked before about how you give ranges just because you want to make the fair deal, but, you got to plan for those contingencies. You come to me and say, I'm going to have to play. If I were to say, well, why? What would be like, what kind of response should people get from someone in your position?
It really depends on what it is. Like what you're asking why about, I guess.
Well, here's an example.
Your supplies.
I think I got you. Let me help you. We were just with a client, before the previous episode, and she's great. She has a concern about gas. Not personally. I think she's fine and she's healthy. I'm talking about natural gas. But at any rate, she had a concern about gas, and she wanted to go to an all-electric AC system because she doesn't like the idea of the gas. She thinks it's marginally unsafe. So the cost of the new electric AC system was considerably more. And she was smart. She's going down the list, and she goes, that seems high. Why? John, you were able to explain to her.
Yes, like one that she asked about was electrical. Well, I had talked to Rob about it, and we had to, I guess, not really a joke, but she had told Rob that the kitchen tried to kill her. And, so we thought, okay, well, let's try to not let that happen. So one of the things in the price was I went ahead and planned to rewire the house. Just the whole house, just to have it not be a problem anymore. Well, then she tells us, like, hey, I had it done. And I forget what year.
Yeah,
she was
not
saying.
long ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah, and she said, well, I've already had that done. I was like, well, fantastic. I said, that number goes way down. Because I explained to her, because I think I even had a sub panel in there.
Yes.
So we had a sub panel. We had additional
What's
wire.
a sub panel? Just
like if your panel's undersized for what we're going to be doing, like for the upgrades. Sometimes panels can vary. I mean, they can go as low as 100, but you hardly ever see that anymore. Usually it's like 150 and up.
Okay.
You can step off a little extra power into a sub panel.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's what we had planned to do. And but her saying I rewired the whole house already, that took that off the table. So that price is going to drop.
But it was wonderful
easily.
because first she said why, then she made an informed decision after John explained to her, well, you had a concern about gas. You wanted to go all electric and the AC system, rather, not the electrical.
Yep.
But and the electrical. She came back and said, oh, well, how do you feel, about gas systems? And we said, actually, they're very safe, but there are certain concerns, but it's a decision you're going to have to make. You're going to have to trade your concern versus the cost. She thought about it and she said, I can't swing it. We're going to have to stick with the gas. Decision number one, informed decision. She asked why. She got information. She made a decision. It lowered the cost. Then the electrical issue came up. She asked why. He explained. We now know we can approach it differently. She said, let's go that direction, reduce cost. Not painful.
Right.
It was not painful. It was really a very nice transaction. It went very well, and she made informed decisions.
It's what should happen, though. She should ask us why. Everybody, I don't care who I give a price to, if they want to ask me why, they should. Ask me why. I can tell you. You're not going to like the answer all the time, but sometimes you might discover, hey, we don't need to do that.
Well, and see, that's what kind of I was getting to was if someone comes to you and asks why, you should be able, you shouldn't do what happened with Robin the car salesman, where it's like, well, actually, your better deal with this.
Precisely.
The person should come forward and say,
yes,
because we're going to have to rewire the house or whatever, and then they go, oh, but it's one of those, asking why gets you to the
and in fairness, what you just pointed out, and that's important. I knew that the guy I was talking to about the Jeep was obfuscating a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's a great word for blowing sunshine up my ass. And he was kind of leading me in a direction that was better for him. He wanted to upsell. He wanted me to get into what do they call it? A Grand Wagoneer, which is like as big as a house with wheels, and he's leading me in that direction. I kept drilling down. Why? Until I got an answer that was satisfactory. Satisfactory was, oh, that's the bottom line. The bottom line is, I'm in a Jeep that's only 3 years old. It's in, sorry, I almost dropped an F-bomb. It's in excellent condition. It's in excellent condition. We take great care of it. It's wise to buy it. I've got good equity in it.
But
buy it, walk away.
But that's the other benefit of asking why.
Yes.
That we haven't mentioned is when you ask why, depending on the answer that you get back from the other party, it lets you know if they are honest and they are on your team.
Amen.
Or if they are against you and they're in it for their own reasons.
Can I get a witness?
I mean, for instance, because I'm bringing this back to our industry because this is our expertise. An honest builder, when you ask them, why is this number the way it is in your proposal, such as the electrical, they're going to explain to you, I did it because I was rewiring the house because I was told it was this. Oh, I don't need to rewire the house? Oh, let me bring that number down. Because he's not trying to put his child through private school. He's just trying to do the right job for what your needs are. So he doesn't mind bringing that number down to make sure that your needs are being met appropriately. Somebody who's just trying to pad the budget to make sure they're getting as much profit as possible, they're going to obfuscate. They're going to say, oh, but we still really need to rewire the house because of how many outlets we're putting in, or some BS. You'll be able to tell whether you're getting an honest answer back or something that you go, I may not know this industry, but I know that answer wasn't right. I know that answer doesn't make sense. I know that there's some logic missing to that. And that just by asking why helps you figure out, or maybe they're not a bad person. They're not doing things for nefarious reasons, but it helps you realize this person has no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, if they can't articulate why, you've got a problem.
Yeah, this person isn't skilled. They go, well, my sub just told me that needed to be that way. I don't know, I'm going to have to talk to them, or I don't understand, or then that's yet another reason, nope, you shouldn't continue engaging with that person. Just asking why helped you find the red flags or the green flags of who you're working with.
And in John's case, and this was so well executed, she asked a very direct question. And in this case, John gave a very direct answer. And the why was there was certain information you had not been given.
Yeah.
You did not know that the house had been rewired. She hadn't told us. We didn't know the house had been rewired. So with that new information, with a lot of unspoken stuff, John was able to say, oh, well, what's there is in fact safe. I can add on to it, and that's cheaper than replacing it all. That's what comes from a simple why.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
No, I was just
I
going to
talk
say
more
everybody.
than you. You get to
No.
talk. a
No, I was just going to say if more people would do that, you'd have a better understanding of the quotes that you get. Most folks do like you say. You hear it from someone, you go, he must know what he's talking about. And that's the end of it. It's like, no. Why? How did you arrive at that? You know, I see the plans, you see the plans, but I don't understand as well as you do. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and let me add, I forgot a really critical point, but the Jeep narrative. So when we decide we're going to buy the Jeep out of the lease, they send back the contract, and my wife, bless her heart, she is amazing because she's very unassuming, and she's a snake in the grass. She's my snake, though, so it's okay. I love her very much. But she's walking down the list, and I didn't even see it. There is this finish protection plan. It was $1,545. And she says, very eloquently, what the hell is this? And the guy says, oh, well, now, you know, this comes with a high quality finish from the Jeep factory, and we want to ensure that it stays that way for years to come. And Ruth looks at me like, what is that bullshit? And I said, sweetheart, I can wax a car. It works out fine. We do not need a $1,545 wax job. It is not. It is, you know, and we said, snatch that off of there. Why? And that was right out of the gate. They stuck this $1,500 wahoo in there for a glorified wax job. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so no, why? Pay attention, read, ask why.
So that brings me to part of what we're looking at here is
You read my mind.
Yeah, one of the things that I think people are going to come up against is we're telling them to use this as a weapon, like to help themselves.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
Make it a tool. It doesn't
No,
have to
I'm
be
saying
adversarial.
weapon. You're going to have to go out there and start slashing people and just go to town. But
Zach is hoping for the purge to become a real thing.
I am not, because I would go first.
You really would.
I would be the one locking myself in the basement. Anyway.
You'd be done for.
I would. Anywho's will be there. So they have this, but when they get to I think I'm finally ready to buy a house, and they like go,
You know,
how can I use why in something that people will come back and just say?
I actually think it's more basic than that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do. I think it's bigger and more basic than that. Before we even get to buying a house, everybody's looking at the economy with what we were just talking about in the last episode. Why? Why are we at where we're at right now?
Yeah, and that's actually a greater tie-in, because with the economy, it's one of those, you ask someone, why are we like that? And people are just like, that's just how it is.
Yeah. The economy's strong.
Yeah.
Then why can't I pay for the same amount of, like, why am I not coming home with the same amount of groceries for the price that I'm paying that I did 2 years ago? Why?
Let's chat on that for a second, because that's, we discussed this privately, but we hear that the economy is strong, and for the record, I agree. The economy is very strong. We have one of the strongest economies. Matter of fact, we are literally the envy of the world. And yet, you say that, and I know there's a whole bunch of you, all the hair just went up on the back of your neck. You want to jump through here and you want to choke me to death because groceries are still expensive and yada, yada, yada. What you're telling me is your buying power is weak. And buying power and the strength of the economy, believe it or not,
they're not the same thing.
They are, to some degree, mutually exclusive. They are.
So I just spent $50 to fill up my car with gas when it cost me $30 in December.
Yep.
So I go to the why. Now, a lot of people will probably say, well, it's who's president and who's this.
Yeah.
And
it's not.
No.
And it's
bigger than that.
It's bigger than that. And that kind of gets me to, so when they ask why and people say, well, that's just how the way things are. Like, the economy's strong.
Here's a good example. You just brought up a great example, and it's among the many things. Why gas? One interesting industry, kind of fascinating to me, John, if you have some sort of catastrophic event in your business, how do you deal with that? You've got insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have insurance. Yeah.
So, and you got insurance for what?
Good Lord. Okay. So I got insurance for a lot of stuff. I have insurance that I have to carry just as the, I guess, liability insurance that I have to carry.
Yeah.
I have to carry, of course, insurance on all the vehicles, equipment. Geez, I'm trying to think what else it could be.
Workman's comp.
But needless to say,
Yeah, workman's comp. I've
you
that
got
one.
your fanny deep in insurance, which is a fixed expense, pretty
It-
much. It
Yeah.
floats with the cost of jobs, but
Yeah.
it is a consistent percentage, let's say.
Right.
And that is in the off chance that shit goes sideways.
Yeah.
That's why we have insurance. Life happens, you're prepared.
Yeah.
And you build this into your cost, and you've got insurance, and that is a wise thing to do, is it not?
Yes.
As we have insurance.
Yeah.
So if there's a catastrophic event and one of your trucks catches on fire, I actually had that happen. It was a shit show. But one of your trucks catches on fire, you have insurance to cover your truck.
Yeah.
It always amazes me with the fuel industry. A refinery burns, gas goes up. I wish I could just raise my prices when the shit hits the fan.
And then prices do not go back
They
down.
do not go back down. I wish I could. Every other industry in the world has to set aside money to be prepared for catastrophic eventualities. You do, I do, but the fuel industry, they seem to be immune because everybody needs gas. They got to put gas in their cars. You're a captive audience, and it's not a happy why, but you might as well know why, because they have control. If there's a catastrophic event, life sucks for you, not for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to raise their prices, and you're going to pay. But then there's the other side, which is just greedflation, and that is demand goes up. Well, we can just get more because there's more people that want more of our fuel, and there's less to go around, so we'll just raise the price as opposed to raising production or whatever.
Which they have demand pricing. Nobody ever really talks about it, but around holidays, in the summer, all of that stuff, they always raise prices because they know demand is going to go up because more people are traveling and they can make more money.
Well, and people have just started to accept that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and part of these things, and I hate to say it, this is a little bit of the gloom and doom side. Some shit you can't do anything about. I mean,
Because people aren't going to
you
just
have
stop
to accept
fueling
that.
up.
You're gonna
Still got to go to work.
Yep.
got to go to work.
Yeah,
You may stop taking road trips. You may slow things down, but it's going to come back to you making a decision, not them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, we had this happen before when we had enough people in America say, screw this, and they dialed back and quit taking road trips, and especially during COVID, and consumption went way down. Suddenly, prices got better. You know, we had the ability to deal with things a little bit better because they, please buy some gas. We need you to come back. My dad used to tell me you have you're in two strong places with a bank: when you owe them too much, or when you don't need it. It's amazing, you know.
Well, the amazing thing for me was during COVID. When does anyone remember what oil did?
Mm.
When it went negative.
Mm.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it did.
I've never seen that.
I didn't know that.
Because markets are supposedly forward thinking. Well, if we're going to be confined to
It
our
actually
homes,
did go negative.
nobody's buying fuel. What's the need? You're at home. You're not going anywhere.
Now they suddenly had a position where they were refining fuel that people weren't buying, and they were still incurring the cost of refining. It went negative. The cost of producing was killing them, and they couldn't slow down. They had to keep the refineries open.
I want to know the guy who bought it. Who bought negative oil futures? Who did this? I mean, anyway, that's a different story, I guess. But that's the one that blew my mind. Now it's $81 a barrel.
So we got about 5 minutes left in this session, but the idea being, be informed, ask questions. And, you know, we've said this from day one, and even the episodes that we may wind up taking down to replace with better, more vibrant and highly intelligent episodes, we've always said you have the power of no. No's good. Two things that you have in your hip pocket always: no and wait. Get away from instant gratification. Get away from I got to have it now. There isn't a whole hell of a lot you have to have now. If your ass is on fire, you do need a fire extinguisher. That's now. But, you know, truth be known, you can say no and you can wait. And this is what we want to instill in you. Ask questions, make informed decisions, learn how to say no, and learn how to say, I'll get back to you. you are in control of your future.
And we get very complacent. When things are good, we get very complacent. Like we were saying, we'll pay whatever because we're just saying that must be what it is.
It is what it is. Isn't that a
I swear,
tired ass statement?
I really don't like it. I say it, but I damn don't like it. We were talking about like 08 and 09. When that happened, everybody's mind reset for a minute. For a damn minute, and now we're right back to where we were.
Isn't that interesting?
We go right back to paying because I was haggling, with big box stores, and it worked. It still works. I just feel like the economy's better. I don't have to do it, but that's crap because I'm sitting here thinking I got to start doing more of that myself because it works, and it still works today.
Well, and that's not never, but we didn't fully go into, we kind of touched on, yes, the economy's strong, but what you're feeling right now is that buying power that's down.
Yes.
Just to piggyback on what you just said, John, is what you're feeling is that buying power being down, which means the costs are up. Grocery costs are up. Housing costs are up so high. I read this week that based on housing costs, so your housing cost is supposed to be a third of your take-home pay. That's a
rule of thumb.
Yeah, rule of thumb. Thank you. Based on that, what current housing costs are, if we work backwards into the numbers, your take-home pay minimum, like the minimum wage, should be $35 an hour based on current housing costs.
That's pretty significant.
I don't even make that.
No, and that's what.
I'm a twice-degreed professional woman. And I don't make that. I make a good,
yes.
I make a respectable wage. My husband doesn't make that. He makes a respectable wage. No one makes that. And that's supposed to be a minimum wage based on what housing cost is. No wonder buying power is low. Nobody makes that. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. I mean, I'm making a very big blanket statement there. But the average human, the average citizen doesn't make that.
Well, because the minimum wage is still $7.25? That's the federal minimum wage.
Yeah.
Is it that high?
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. And guys, we're tiptoeing in the grass of regulation. But I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Nothing unregulated, nothing allowed to run with scissors is going to work out well.
Here's the thing.
We have to find measures to control what can happen.
My child, he is now almost 8, which when I say that out loud makes me want to vomit a little bit. But when he was 2, he was a bit of a runner. He liked to see things. So I put a leash on that kid. I do not feel bad about it. I make no apologies. I leashed my child. It was on a cute little backpack that had bat wings on it. It was very adorable. It didn't look like a dog leash, but I leashed him because I didn't want him running in traffic, and I didn't want him running away. It was safety. There is a certain level of, we should leash the things we give a shit about. And the economy is one of them. Unbridled economies or consumerism, all of it, is not good for us.
No. We've got to get away from the conceit that it is what it is. John, you hate that. I hate that. Saying it is what it is a conceit. It's I surrender.
Yeah.
Well, I don't surrender. And I don't want any of you guys to surrender. Everybody, this is the United States of America. We are the wealthiest economy on earth. There is no reason why everyone shouldn't be in a home of some sort. I'm sorry. I've been in everything from low to moderate income housing to high-end homes. There's plenty of resource. There's plenty going around. There's no reason why people shouldn't be in homes.
And slums should not exist.
Should not exist. We should not have a homeless problem. We should not have children going to bed hungry in a nation that produces 4 to 5 times more food than it consumes. This is telling us there's a freaking problem, and we, the people, need to speak up and say something about it. Part of that is knowing about what the hell's going on in your world. And again, we dwell in the housing part, the shelter part, but it touches everything.
And the other part of that, honestly, is Sorry, I was about to throw out an F-bomb.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And she's usually so dainty. Yeah, the silence in the room you can hear, right?
give a shit about your fellow man. I'm sorry. Care about the child that's going hungry. Care about the guy that's homeless on the corner of the street. And I'm not saying to your own detriment, but we should care about people not having enough. And yeah, you should care about you not having enough too. I'm not saying that you should not be able to pay your bills so that somebody else can, but we are at a point in this country and in this world that everybody should be able to eat and to live in a safe place. There's no reason for the oligarchs to have as much as they do and for as many children that go to my son's school to not have enough food in their bellies.
Think about it, folks. When you've got 3 individuals in the United States whose net worth is greater than the lower half, 175 million Americans, something is shit sideways. I'm sorry. And we need to start thinking.
And the other thing is, too...
We're not victims.
Yeah,
we're citizens.
Yeah, our economy is strong, and
it is.
Thank God we have jobs.
Because of you, by the way.
But how many of those people that our unemployment is low is because those people are working 3 jobs to make their rent?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're at the end of today's session, but we leave you with this. Be aware, ask questions, make informed decisions, know when to say no, know when to wait, know when to moderate.
And know what your rights are and pay attention to what is happening behind closed doors in the Capitol buildings of your local government.
Amen.
So I think one of the big things for this is saying that your economy is strong, yes. Buying power may be weak, but the way to help get the buying power back to the people is by asking why.
And asking the right people why.
And occasionally saying no. It's supply and demand, shorten demand, things change.
Well, I think that's where we're going to end today. So you've been listening to Nuhaus Knows, where homeowners go when they need to know. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.